We even asked about Mr. Bolter's political affiliations, and David Carlson, once again, his roommate and best friend, known him since fourth grade, did say Bolter voted for Trump and that he was a strong supporter.
We didn't get a chance to discuss this particular story yesterday, but as I'm sure you're aware, yesterday, America was rocked by another tragedy, a politically motivated assassination attempt and shooting of two Democratic lawmakers and their spouses. One couple was murdered. The other couple survived, but is grievously wounded. And we have since learned that the culprit, who is currently on the run as we speak, he has not been brought to justice or taken into custody. Police and law enforcement are looking for him, is an anti-abortion religious lunatic and a conservative Trump voter. And in response to this, earlier this morning, Trump was asked about the tragedy and whether he would call Democratic Governor Tim Walz. And Trump's response was, even by Trump's standards, appalling and politically vicious. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, let's just skip to the end, the worst part. I won't make you wait for it. This is from Rachel Scott, I believe was it ABC? Yes, ABC, okay, who's previously beefed with Donald Trump when she grilled him rightfully during the campaign during a town hall event. He did not like her, and his response to her question here, her perfectly fair question, is shocking even by Trump standards. On Minnesota, I asked Trump about the assassination and whether he plans to call the state's Democratic governor, Tim Walz. And this is Trump's response. Quote, "Well, it's a terrible thing. I think he's a terrible governor. I think he's a grossly incompetent person, but I may call him. I may call other people too," the president said. Now, this is not the first time that we've heard Donald Trump say something vicious like this. As I was reading it again, something popped into my head where, again, during the last election, Trump did a town hall event with Harris Faulkner of Fox News, and at the same time, the surviving relatives of a woman who died as a consequence of an abortion trigger law was ultimately created by Trump, because had he not arranged for the overturning of Roe v. Wade, this trigger law would not have gone into effect and this person wouldn't have died. But there was some sort of interview or town hall event going on at the same time, and he talked about how he had a bigger crowd than they did. This person who died, again, as a direct consequence of his policies, he just felt the need to laugh and mock that he's more popular or more people are here to show up to him. And Fox News just brushed it off. It's disgusting. So this isn't totally surprising, I suppose, given how narcissistic and cruel Trump is. But this particular combination of words, this is uncharted territory for Trump, again, saying, well, it's a terrible thing, but Tim Walz is a terrible governor. I think he's grossly incompetent. I may call him, but I may call other people. Yeah, even by Trump standards, pretty gross. Trump is being rightfully condemned on Twitter and on social media about this. Tommy Vitor, Pod Save America, says he can't just be a decent person for 30 seconds. Reverend Fred Small says, "Stay classy, Mr. President," of course, sarcastically. Another person says the president's supposed to be for all Americans. Asshole in chief, the Mandarin Don, is cementing himself in history as being the most narcissistic sociopath in presidential history. Fuck you, Donald. Malignant narcissism. Classy is not the way I would ever describe POTUS. This is disgusting. 2 people were killed, and this is all he can say. He doesn't have empathy, just like the people that support him. To my Minnesota friends who voted for Trump, how can you explain why you support a man who, upon learning what happened yesterday and knowing Walz was on the assassin's hit list, would use a moment to try to dunk on the governor? Fuck Trump. Fuck him. Joe from Jers. Trump is a depraved sociopath incapable of decency on any human level. If President Biden had said something as sociopathic as this after assassinations, would the media have just quoted it, or would they have analyzed it as a sign of declining mental health, and so on and so forth? Yeah, this is every Republican lawmaker and every right-wing Trump supporter on Fox News and in alternate media should be confronted about this question. They should be asked questions about it. Do you condemn this? What do you think of this? If the shoe were on the other foot, and if this had been President Biden, after a Republican assassination attempt, or President Obama after an assassination attempt against Republicans? Would you be okay with it? Would you laugh it off? Are you a profoundly unprincipled, hypocritical loser who should be made fun of for the rest of your life? And unfortunately, many of these people are. Really disgusting. So let's just remind people of where we stand, what to know about Minnesota lawmaker shootings that killed Melissa Hortman. A manhunt is underway in Minnesota for the suspect in the shooting attacks of 2 state lawmakers at their Twin Cities homes that Governor Tim Walz called a, quote, politically motivated assassination. Minnesota State House Democratic leader Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark, were killed, and State Senator John Hoffman and his wife, Yvette, were wounded in attacks by a gunman whom officials said was impersonating a police officer. Walz said at a Saturday briefing that the injured couple were receiving care in the hospital after undergoing surgery for their gunshot wounds. The suspect, whom officials identified as Vance Luther Bolter, 57, was still at large as of Saturday morning, and the FBI offered a reward up to $50,000 for information leading to his arrest and conviction. Quote, Minnesota's flags will high at half-mast in honor and remembrance of Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman, Walz wrote in a statement and post on his social media accounts. The 55-year-old Hortman had served as state House Speaker from 2019 until this year, when she became House Democrats caucus leader following a rare tie in the chamber. Well, she woke up every morning determined to make Minnesota a better place, and she'll be greatly missed. Walz said at the briefing that he's cautiously optimistic that the 60-year-old Minnesota Senate Human Services Committee chair and his wife, quote, will survive the assassination attempt. So that's in a nutshell. We could go on the mechanics of it, but there's really no point. I will add this. The suspect abandoned at Hortman's home an SUV that was similar to a police squad vehicle. Investigators said in it they found a manifesto featuring a target list that included other Democratic lawmakers and prominent individuals who support abortion rights in Minnesota, Axios report, okay? Including Governor Walz and Senator Tina Smith, okay? So the evidence is mounting that this person is a conservative. Although it's important to note that right-wingers, particularly on social media, including Elon Musk, have been desperately trying to spin this as an act of a disgruntled Democrat targeting Democrats. The whole conspiracy theory doesn't make much sense at all. We'll get to it. But again, there is mounting evidence that this person is a conservative Trump supporter. So I'm going to play a couple of clips, starting with this one here.
We even asked about Mr. Bolter's political affiliations, and David Carlson, once again his roommate and best friend, known him since 4th grade, did say Bolter voted for Trump and that he was a strong supporter. We even asked about...
There you have it. A close witness, a close personal contact of his roommate, a lifelong friend, has confirmed that he's a Trump supporter. This shouldn't be surprising, given the propensity of violence among the MAGA movement, the disproportionate propensity towards violence, and the fact that 2 Democratic lawmakers were targeted, and the list of other targets included Democratic lawmakers, particularly those who oppose, or support rather the right to an abortion. Right? Again, it's not like any of the evidence is really contradicting itself here by any stretch. I also want to show you this clip.
Dead shortly. So I just want to let you know I love you guys both, and I wish it hadn't gone this way. I don't want to say anything more and implicate you in any way, because you guys don't know anything about this. But I love you guys, and I'm sorry for all the trouble this has caused. He was a loving, caring guy, loved his family, loved his friends, and loved God, and I don't know why he did what he did. It's not Vance. No one will believe this. No one that grew up. He had lots of friends, trust me. And I wish I could have been there to stop him.
So that is, again, his roommate, the person that was quoted in the first clip as well. So again, the evidence mounting that this is a religiously motivated person. As a matter of fact, I want to play this clip as well. This is the suspect, Vance Bolter.
And I'm just as excited about Jesus.
Et je suis juste excité
Right
de
here,
Jésus.
right now.
Jusqu'à présent, même maintenant.
And when I get excited,
Et quand je suis excité,
I want to dance.
je veux danser.
And what Jesus did for me.
Ce que Jésus a fait pour moi.
Jesus is God.
Jésus est
Almighty
Dieu.
God.
C'est le Dieu
He
puissant.
saved my life.
Il a sauvé ma vie.
Woo! I'm excited about God.
Je suis excité de Dieu.
And I want to worship Him.
So, a religiously conservative pro-lifer who opposed abortion on a list or created a list targeting Democratic lawmakers who support the right to an abortion. His best friend and roommate has confirmed that he is a Trump voter. I believe there are registrations of him at various points confirming that he's Republican as well. Micah Irfin, friend of the show, and co-host of a show with Boy, friend of the show, co-host of mine of Live and Learn. They have a show together called The Three Wonks, along with Sock Dem Left. So he's put together a viral thread going after right-wingers on social media for spreading disinformation, suggesting that this was some sort of like leftist or liberal, attacking Democrats. So he says, so the shooter impersonated a police officer, killed 2 Democrats, had a hit list full of other higher-profile Democrats, including Tim Walz, and was also planning to target abortion providers and pro-choice advocates. And you want us to believe he was pro-Democrat? And he brings the receipts. The list included dozens of other Democrats from Minnesota, including Tim Walz, Representative Ilhan Omar, Senator Tina Smith, and Attorney General Keith Ellison, according to law enforcement sources familiar with the matter. Law enforcement officials are looking into whether the suspect may have been motivated by extreme views on abortion. Vance Bolter is listed online as part of the leadership of a private security firm. Social media has been found. Again, talking about like religiously conservative, right-wing organizations. Republicans keep spuriously alleging that the shooting is because of a vote to take away health care from the undocumented. This cannot possibly be true because the senator he assassinated voted against that bill. Everyone else we know about the list has nothing to do with it. So again, that particular motivation doesn't work. He points out again, as we've noted, that his best friend and roommate has confirmed that Volter is a Trump voter. So yeah, just going through a pretty Herculean effort by Micah here, pointing out that, again, he's registered as a Republican. So there's that. Wow. Yeah, and he's going through the effort of debunking all of it. Now, in response to this, there has been a Herculean effort by right-wing influencers online to peddle this information because they know this looks bad. A Democratic legislator was assassinated. Right-wing influencers coughed out disinformation. Just hours after Minnesotans learned that Democratic House Leader Melissa Hortman had been assassinated, right-wing influencer Colin Rugg, who has 1.8 million followers on X, hinted that she'd been killed because of a recent vote on ending undocumented adults' ability to enroll in Minnesota Care, subsidized health insurance for the working poor. Mike Cernovich, another right-wing influencer, has 1.4 million followers on X, took Rugg's post and amped it up, but in just the asking question style of many conspiracy theories. Did Tim Walz have her executed to send a message? They were deeply ignorant about the Minnesota Care issue. Walz and Hortman, who was instrumental in passing legislation allowing undocumented people to sign up for Minnesota Care as Speaker of the House in 2023, negotiated a compromise with Republicans in the Minnesota legislature to end eligibility for adults, but to keep it for children. They did so to win necessary Republican support in the 67-67 House to pass a state budget. Without it, state government would have shut down on July 1st. But Hortman and Walz signed the compromise agreement in mid-May. This week, Hortman spoke tearfully about how difficult the vote was for her, but she was bound to vote yes on the issue because of the prior agreement. Rugg and Cernovich's posts were widely shared and just the start of the disinformation. Once law enforcement sources began revealing a suspect, right-wing influencers ran with this insignificant detail, that Vance Luther Bolter was a Walz appointee. Like many states, but even more so here, Minnesota is home to hundreds of nonpartisan and bipartisan boards and commissions, which are composed of thousands of people who typically win the appointment simply by volunteering. There are currently 342 open positions on Minnesota boards and commissions. Bolter was appointed to the Workforce Development Council by Walz's predecessor, Governor Mark Dayton, and reappointed by Walz. It was the equivalent of calling a Sunday school volunteer and, quote, appointee of the bishop. No matter, the Murdoch media machine, specifically the New York Post, had their headline, quote, former appointee of Tim Walz sought. Cernovich had his greasy foil hot dog wrapper and began constructing a hat. Quote, the vice president candidate for the Democrat Party is directly connected to a domestic terrorist. That is confirmed. The only question is whether Tim Walz himself ordered the political hit against a rival who voted against Walz's plan to give free health care to illegals. Walz had no such plan. He had signed an agreement to end eligibility for undocumented adults. Joey Manorino, who has more than 600,000 followers on X, was even more crass. But rumor has it she was preparing to switch parties. The Democrats are violent scum. It was a ridiculous rumor. One of the last photos of Hortman alive was an image of her at the Democratic Farmer Labor's big annual fundraising event, the Humphrey Mondale Dinner, which took place just hours before her assassination. No matter, Cernovich wanted his new friends in federal law enforcement to act. Quote, the FBI must take Tim Walz into custody immediately. Finally, fresh off his humiliating defeat at the hands of Donald Trump, the world's richest man, Elon Musk, quote tweeted someone again falsely alleging Hortman was killed by the left and added, quote, the far left is murderously violent. The suspect's hit list, according to an official who has seen the list, comprised Minnesotans who have been outspoken in favor of abortion rights. CNN reported the list also included several abortion clinics, which doesn't sound like the work of the left. Right-wing influencers marred Hortman's death and smeared Walz on a pile of lies. In a different, saner world, they would be humiliated and slink away. But the smart money is that during the next moment of national crisis and mourning, they will again lie for profit. So yeah, pretty despicable, but part and parcel of the MAGA movement. It's a movement of profound cruelty and dishonesty, the likes of which we've never seen from Democrats or liberals, and it goes all the way back from the top, right? Where they say the fish rots from the head down. And again, I will remind you that when asked about this, Donald Trump's response was, quote, it's a terrible thing, but I think Tim Walz is a terrible governor. I think he's a grossly incompetent person, but I may call him, but I may call other people too. Pretty gross. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.